Few Good Reviews is back, and once again I'm here to talk you through my thoughts on some albums, a dozen albums to be precise, and albums here that I didn't have a huge amount to say about, wanted to kind of get my thoughts across but couldn't put out a full review due to whatever reasons. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on what I have said throughout. Hopefully you agree with me throughout. If you disagree, let me know as well. And yeah, enjoy my 12 album roundup. Otoboke Beaver, pretty animated and lively punk band that I don't know why I don't like more than I do. Their last album I thought was pretty good, but this one here is so short and so snappy, and every track just kind of feels like it does the same thing. And even after 20 minutes, I was not even that fazed by it. I was just sort of sat there like, yeah, it's cool, like it's doing its job, it's doing everything well. But it just wasn't leaving much of an impression on me. It was a weird listen, honestly, but it's okay. I just don't really have much energy for it. Saw this Weiland album getting some hype via Rate Your Music, of course. That is usually the best place to find some obscure niche music. You can't really fault it. But to be honest, this was not very good, and vocally found it to be quite like John Mouse, Ariel Pink-ish. And those two artists are very hit or miss for me, particularly John Mouse. I always found his style just a bit much. The echoey effect over the vocals, the really cheap synth sounding stuff too coming through on this album, this Weiland album I mean, is not really appealing to me. I did have a commenter tell me that this is for fans of Sam Gellaitry, but honestly, if you're loving this Weiland album and you've never listened to Sam Gellaitry, you want to be listening to Sam Gellaitry because he's way better. Like there is a similar style, but the brightness and the catchiness of Sam's music is so much better than this. Bob Vylan with the most politically charged album I've heard in some time. This does not hold back. Like seriously, does not hold back. It's menacing, it's brutal, it's very left wing, to be honest. It does not hold back in the political ideology on all of these tracks. There's even one track that's talking about how he doesn't care about GDP. Very specific. I haven't quite heard a punk leaning album go that specific into things like that in a long time, or even ever, to be honest. There is points where I'm reminded of Idols. There are a couple of tracks that remind me a lot of that musically, and then I'm getting a bit of like a rap fusion in places too. Yeah, I mean, it kind of wore thin for me, to be honest. By the end, I was getting a bit tired of the kind of intensity of everything, but it was okay. I think if you're looking for something that's just so aggressive and speaks to maybe your feelings about the government and the world at large, then you might be in for a treat with this one, to be honest. This could go down really well. Believe it or not, I did see Blossoms live about 6-ish years ago. Young Ryan was at that gig in Sheffield, and it was pretty good, and they were promising at the start. I thought they had some pretty decent tunes. I knew from the start that they were nothing particularly special or unique. They were very much indebted to the British pop rock sounds of the many years gone by. You know, you've got your Catfishers these days as well doing stuff like this. Like they really aren't adding anything to the table, but they've just like really sweetened their sound to the point where their tracks are really just like ugh to listen to now. Like there's just no edge to it at all. It's all so like happy with the singing, which I'm not against, by the way. I like happy music, but just the way the vocals sound on this album just isn't hitting for me at all. Instrumentally, again, just not really adding anything to the table that we've not heard 100 times before. Yeah, I'm not really keen on Blossoms anymore, to be honest. I actually tried sitting down and writing a full review notes for Daniel Rossen, and I couldn't muster up anything. The issue with this for me was just so many of the tracks just ran on for way too long. Even when they weren't that long, it felt like they were going on and on and on. There were some nice ideas there, very, you know, Grizzly Bear-esque with how, you know, he was approaching music. It isn't that different to what we've heard in the past from that band, to be honest. But yeah, the length of the tracks, the sameness of the album just wore pretty thin. Oh yeah, so Kae Tempest is out with a new album, and I'm a big fan of their previous work. They've put out some of the best music in the UK of the past, like, I don't know, I want to say 8-ish years. Every album has been really, really good. It's just a bit of a shame that I would say this is the worst one so far, and I didn't have a huge amount to say about it because I was really looking forward to it and I really wanted to rave about it on this channel, as I have done with previous albums from Kae. But unfortunately, it wasn't quite as good, it wasn't quite as sharp, it wasn't quite as witty with the lyrics either. There was always a really wise angle with the lyrics with Kae on the previous albums. Some really stark, you know, commentary on the UK at large and just social aspects of living in the UK and Britain. It was brilliant, to be honest. And yeah, this new one is okay, but that sharp writing isn't there for me. And musically it isn't that great either at times. It's pretty standard, to be honest. The Leanne La Havas track I thought was beautiful though. But yeah, just was missing something. That sharpness just wasn't quite there. I'd still recommend it and I still think it's a solid album. But I was expecting the world. I was like ready to be like, this is one of the best albums of the year. But it's not turned out like that. This is going to go down as one of the most underrated albums of the year, Della. Not entirely sure, you know, where this really came from. I think I saw it on Rate Your Music, of course, a site that's just full of obscure releases like this. But honestly, it's really nice. There's some really nice elements to this album. There's some great Midwest emo tinges coming through. There's even like some mathy rock breakdowns as well, which I thought were really nice on the ears. Yeah, and then they go into this kind of like sweet direction as well. That reminds me of something like Mid-Air Thief would do. There's a lot of combinations going on in this album that I was really impressed with. I think at times it can, you know, fall into the background a little bit, but I really like this. I would have done a full review of it, but you know, it's hard to get you guys to click on the videos that have, you know, barely any recognizability. I've got to come up with some clickbait title to get you guys to watch it, but I thought instead I'll include it in this and tell you guys it's really good. I don't know about Billy Woods, man. I'm just hitting a point with him where so much of his material is just becoming homogenous, and I know his fan base is very dedicated to his craft and what he's putting out. You never really hear a bad word said about him via his fans. In fact, it's crazy actually. You never see his fans say he's dropped a mediocre album or he's dropped a bit of a dud. Like, every album this guy drops is just raved about by all his fans. It's a rarity in any genre of music, to be honest, that to have an artist that is just so consistently beloved with every album they put out like this. It's crazy. Even my favorite artists, I couldn't pinpoint, you know, an artist where I'm like, oh yeah, every album they put out is amazing. I just don't have that attachment, and I just find it quite bizarre with Billy, because I just feel like even with his Arm & Hammer stuff, there isn't a huge amount of diversity in the way he raps, the things he raps about, to be honest. His style, his flows, they always feel quite samey. He does that kind of like like he just kind of just repeats a lot of things to me. I'm just lost with Billy. I'm just lost with him, man. This just wasn't that great. Was hoping Soul Glow would be the big punk album of the year, the album that would just completely sweep me off my feet in this genre of music. I was very much reminded of the band Let Live, by the way, and they are not talked up enough. So definitely go check out some Let Live if you like this Soul Glow album. For sure. Excuse me, but yeah, the vocals just got a bit intense at times. Just felt like there was always so much going on with what he was doing. He was like Genesis Owozu on absolute steroids, and I thought Genesis Owozu brought a lot of, you know, fire and charisma to the table, but this guy's just like that times 50, and it's just always too much. I feel like he needs to slow down. He starts every song at 100, has nowhere to go, going too heavy on everything. Just tame it, you know, reel it back a little bit, and I think I'd be on board. Loved the last Market album. I thought it was so good. But unfortunately, this New Market album isn't quite as good, but I still think it's good. I still think it was decent. It was nice. It still had the same, like the core of what they were doing before is still there. It's not like a huge difference. I could imagine you listening to this one thinking it's as good as the last one, but there was just something quite special about the last one that just hit me in the right spot that I thought was really good, and just, you know, some really fantastic tunes on there as well. I think they nailed the hooks, but on this album it's not quite as stand out in that sense. It's still pretty good though. I'd recommend anything by Market because I think all of their albums are worth your time, and they are a band deserving of more attention. I'm gonna say it right now, in the world of post-punk at the moment, Fontaines DC might have one of the worst vocalists in the genre, and I know not many people are going to like that opinion, but goddamn, this guy cannot hit a note. He's so dreary, he's so monotonous, and the songs themselves are just getting worse with each album. Like the first album I had some potential. There were some good hits on that album. Then the second one was a bit blander, not as good. This time around they've just completely missed. I think they need a few years break, to be honest. I think they're dropping music too close together, and it's just not doing them any favours. Young Lean dropped one of the best songs of the year on one of the most meh albums of the year, which is very Young Lean, to be honest. He's done this before with tracks like Red Bottom Sky, which is fantastic, and other albums too, which I've thought have had some really good songs. He's had some fantastic Lucy singles as well. I think Hoover is a great track from him, but yet he doesn't really keep me engaged for a whole album. I'll take Bliss though with FKA Twigs. Holy shit, that track is so good. So good. The guitars, what are they doing on this song? It's like post-punk with cloud rap, and what is that song? Insane. But yeah, everything else was just like eh. And that is it. A Few Good Reviews is done for another few months. We will be back again with this at some point. Let me know your thoughts on what I've said. Let me know what I should review next as well, what videos you would like to see from me in the future. Always love to see you guys in the comments telling me that, because you know, feedback from you guys helps, and I want to push my content as far as I can to entertain you. And if there are videos that I'm not doing that you'd like to see, tell me what I should be doing. Tell me where I'm going wrong. Thank you. As always, subscribe. Goodbye.